16 years ago, I was circumcised. I don't recall anything from the experience, but the fact remains that on that day, a crucial part of me was cut and thrown away. FGM, female genital mutilation. It is a procedure that involves the partial or complete removal of the female genitalia for non-medical reasons. It is done most of the girls between the ages of 0 to 15 in parts of Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. So as I said in my opening, I went through FGM when I was a little girl. However, it was only recently that I found out what that really meant for me. So over the summer, I was in many different programs where I learned about activism and the different things that activists are doing around the world to make it a better place. And I came back from a summer of that feeling like very inspired because I just learned so many things and I realized that I too can do something. And so I wanted to conduct something and I wanted to plan something and I wanted to elicit the same emotions that I had from my peers and inspire them to affect change. And so I started brainstorming many different issues, and on that list was climate change. But then a friend of mine suggested FGM. So I went online and I looked it up. And I realized then that FGM was the same as female circumcision, which is what it is called in my country. And that although it was done when I was so young that I don't remember it, that gives me a unique perspective that I can contribute to the conversation of FGM. And so I went on to read more about it, and that was when I found out that, yeah, what I grew up thinking about FGM isn't what it is. So growing up, I celebrated FGM. I thought that, it made me a woman because female circumcision, well, there's male circumcision too, so you guys are equal, right? And it was that moment that I learned that actually that's not what it is, that FGM actually makes it so that you're twice as likely to have birth complications, that I am twice as likely to have newborn deaths, and that I am twice as likely to, not twice as likely, but I will live my life never knowing what it feels like to have sexual pleasure. And so in that moment, I was confused and I was angry. But at the same time, I was inspired because I felt that I just learned this and I had to go out and educate victims who, like myself, didn't know what this means for them. To let them know that, well, this is what happened to you and this is what it means for you, but it is not going to define you. And so I started thinking about doing something around FGM. And at that time, I knew it was horrific and I wanted to speak out against it. However, I wasn't sure if I should. Because although FGM is this horrible thing, it is a part of my culture. And at that time, culture was who I am. It is the people that I grew up with, the ideas that I internalized over time, and the many little things that made me who I am. And I didn't want to come out right and say, well, that culture that is all about family and it's all about love is the same culture that is condoning doing such a horrific thing to its little girls. And I also, because I come from Western Africa, we are subjected to so much stereotypes, they want to contribute to it, to say that, well, my country, my tribe, my people are the people who are doing such a horrific thing. But at the same time, I didn't want to risk shaming students who come from such a background. Because one of the risks that you run in talking about FGM in a country where it's not prevalent is that you would risk subjecting these students to stereotypes and discriminations, and I didn't want to do that. But more than anything, I didn't want to talk about FGM because I felt I wasn't an activist. Because in learning about activists, I saw that, activists, they were very loud and aggressive and letting people know that this is FGM, it is bad, and we should end it. Whereas I was very reserved and I was more comfortable in engaging my community and my school and my family rather than going out and speaking out. And that when I read online about different activists around the world and what they're doing to contribute to the effort of FGM, I saw that some were very adamant in shaming people who contribute to this practice. And I knew these people. They are my friends, they're my family, they're people that I love, and I knew that they did this not because they were trying to be horrible people, but because at that time and in that moment, that is what they felt they could do to protect their little girls. So take me, for example. Had FGM not been done to me, I would have grown up in a society where marriage will be one of my biggest paths. And although it's not the only path, it is one of the biggest. And no respectable man would have asked for my hand in marriage because he would think that, well, she's dirty. She's tainted. There is no way she is worthy of my love. And also, because I had all these reservations and I had all these questions, I felt, well, I shouldn't talk about FGM because as an activist, well, you just find a cause, you know you want to talk about it, you immediately know how you're going to talk about it, and you just go out and you do it. And I had all these reservations. And so looking back, it is that time when I was conflicted inside that has brought me to this moment where I'm in the middle of planning an FGM workshop in my school. I have come to realize that as an activist, I don't have to be loud. I don't have to be on stage, that I could invite people to come to my school and talk to these kids instead of doing it myself. And that I don't just have to talk to victims when addressing the issue of FGM, that I could engage non-victims. Because some of you, I'm sure most of you in the audience are not victims, however, chances are you know someone who is. And by knowing what FGM is, what the symptoms are, and what the effects are, you can better advise that person and be an ally. And that also those people that perpetuate FGM, I don't have to exclude them, because they too have a story to tell, because FGM is an idea. It is not the people. They do it thinking they're helping us, not hurting us. And so I share this story with you to let you know that there is no one way to be an activist. It took me 16 years to finally realize that I wanted to attack the ideas that perpetuate FGM, not the people who misinformed practice it. It took me 16 years to find out what kind of activist I want to become. Thank you.